Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm a senior accounting and finance major, and I studied abroad in Australia in 2010. So I went with a group of about probably 5 or 6 people, and I was there for a period of 6 to 7 months. And I studied abroad at the University of, it's called RMIT, the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. Melbourne is definitely sort of like the cultural gem of Australia, I would say. It has lots of. It's not like New York City where there are a lot of skyscrapers. My apartment was on the 14th floor, and from there I can get a pretty clear skyline view of the whole city. And so buildings weren't excessively tall, I should say. And it's a much more approachable city. I don't know how else to describe it. But it was definitely much more culturally diverse than I had expected. So when I studied abroad in Australia, I went with several other Maryland students, and people that I normally wouldn't hang out with at College Park, suddenly became my closest friends in Australia. And so it really just pushed me outside my comfort zone in terms of friends, in terms of adjusting to the different lifestyle there. One of the challenges that I faced was obviously finances, because things were much more expensive than I had originally anticipated. And so all of the American students were kind of in the same boat. And so we kind of all band together and figured out what we had to do to get jobs, basically. And one of the suggestions that I would give to you would be, if you're looking for work, would be to research a little bit on what employers are expecting to see on a resume, just like you would in the States, because their standards are a little bit different from our standards. For instance, their resumes are typically 3 to 5 pages long, and you include everything from your favorite hobbies to more elaborate explanations on the different activities that you participated in or the past experiences that you've had. And in the beginning, before I found a job, I was struggling financially. I could have went back to my parents for more money, but I figured I was in a foreign country. I was already so far out of my comfort zone. Why not take it to the next level? And so I decided to exploit myself a little bit, and I became a street busker. And what that means, it's busking is basically street performing. And so I sang in the street for money, which was something that I would never have done in the States, because I'd be afraid that I'd bump into someone. But I was in Australia, and I figured, you know what, I might not see these people ever again. So what the heck, I'm gonna give it a shot. And so the response that I got was actually phenomenal. I made $70 to $140 an hour. Just standing in the street, no instrument, just my voice. I had to go through an audition process to get a permit. And it was, it definitely made going out a lot more accessible, and it definitely afforded me a couple more trips than I would have taken. I would definitely say that studying abroad in Australia gave me sort of a competitive edge, because it set me apart in terms of interviews. Because at the end of the day, interviewers just want to remember who you are. And I felt as though using my experiences from Australia, it gave me so much more that I can pull on in my arsenal. And it really just helped to set me apart from the other candidates, I feel, because I got a really positive response from employers. And a lot of times, actually, one of my interviewers was actually Australian. And so we automatically connected on that level. And my other interviewers also studied abroad, and so it was easy. Anything you can find to sort of relate to your interviewer and have that sort of instant connection is going to put your resume, it's going to push your resume to the top of the stack.